Ah, East Sussex, you beauty. Another wonderful town for us to visit. Yeah, I love this. Dogs welcome, humans tolerated. Very historic buildings here. This tree symbolizing strength. Just like Rye showed over all the years. Some of our friends in nature, they've got a home here. We are now entering prime smuggling territory as well. The famous Mermaid Inn. Yeah, I love this big beam here. The effort, the blood, sweat and tears. And just look at the stone, the size of the stones here. Welcome to Rye. Let's go and explore. That is London and Rye is over there. Yes everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm here outside Rye station and it's another beautiful day for vlogging. I took the 7:58 train from Brighton and I arrived here just before 10. I had to change at Hastings, but we are still in East Sussex, and in fact Rye sits in the Rother district of East Sussex, perched where the rivers Rother, Tillingham and Brede meet. So 3 rivers meet in the area, and here is a useful map as well for us to start our adventures, thanks to Captain Pugwash, your guide to Rye. So we are over here and you can just see how tiny and compact Rye is. The name Rye derives from an old Saxon word meaning island. So even though the sea is about 2 miles inland nowadays, it has a lot of maritime history. Rye is an ancient hilltop town rising like an island. It was made an ancient town over Cinque ports as well. So I talked about the Cinque ports in Hastings, and I've read about the French raid of 1377, which I'll talk about a bit more in due course. When the Domesday Survey was compiled in 1086, Rye already had about 200 households and 0 bikers back then. But today it's got around 5,000 people. It was a substantive town back in the 11th century already, and that was obviously a sign of its growing importance on the south coast. It had a functioning port, and over time, as we saw from Captain Pugwash, it became one of the Cinque ports. Actually, we need to be clear, it was an ancient town that in effect functioned like a Cinque port. Rye very proud of its ancient town status, functioning like a Cinque port. So it basically defended the coast and supplied maritime services to the crown, and in exchange they would get a lot of privileges. And the Cinque port system already took shape in the late Anglo-Saxon period, and that idea emerged under Edward the Confessor, and then Rye and Winchelsea were added as ancient towns a little bit later. But yeah, just getting an idea of some of the architecture. You can see a real mix here in Rye. Obviously lots of timber framed houses and lots of stone buildings, but much of the town was actually destroyed by the French in 1377. And when we get to St. Mary's Church, I'll tell you an interesting story there about the church bells. A lot of this town would have had to be rebuilt after those French attacks. Oh wow, look at this. They've even got Cinque Ports Street car park. Come on Rye, I think this is taking it a bit far, isn't it? You weren't one of the original 5. It's a bit like joining the band late and still getting your greatest hits album. Anyway, no, I'm just kidding. Obviously you are very proud of this heritage, and I do love all this information from Captain Pugwash, your guide to Rye, signposting us. And yeah, we're not too far from the Landgate. That is where I want to go next. Yeah, many of the shops will be closed because it's still Sunday morning, early Sunday morning, and I actually made a decision to come a bit earlier to miss the big tourist rush that occurs around lunchtime. Rye is a very popular place to visit, so there will be many tourists later, I am sure. There you go, Cinque Street, and a bit of a Asian touch as well here in Rye. In terms of the French hand in this town, I think it's important to say that after the Norman conquest, Rye was granted to a Norman abbey, and it stayed under that continental influence until 1247, and that was when Henry III brought it back under English control. And soon after, the town started to build some serious defences, including the Ypres Tower, which we'll see later as well. And very interestingly, this town also gained a bit of a reputation for privateering. Now that is piracy with paperwork, I guess, with the crown taking their cut, of course, of whatever was seized. And some even claim that Rye was the most famous pirate port in the 13th century. That is not necessarily verified. I'm not sure how you even measure that. So if you do know, let me know in the comments. But certainly I've read that for a long time, long period, Rye was considered one of the best harbours between the Isle of Wight and the Thames. So it is no surprise that the pirates took advantage of it. Anyway, here we are, just outside the Landgate bar, and opposite the famous Landgate. There it is in all its glory. This Landgate was built in 1329, in the early years of the reign of Edward III. Obviously the French and the English, they had some history in terms of military conflict, and this was one of the efforts to try and protect this town. And it's the only one of Rye's 4 medieval gates still standing, and today I believe it's the only way to drive into the old town, as these people are doing. Nice garden display here next to the Landgate as well. Just look at the size of some of the stones, and you can spot a bird over there. In fact, I've read that this Landgate famously had to be cleared of around 25 tons of pigeon droppings in 2015 to prevent damage to the stonework. I guess they still do their business elsewhere, but if you're from Rye and you remember that cleanup, let me know in the comments. That would have been quite an operation. But anyway, let's walk up, and from here everything climbs, and I might get a little bit out of breath, but it's totally worth it. And this is actually where you can imagine Rye as a hilltop island rising out of the marshes with some beautiful cottages. Just giving you a shot back there of a Landgate with the Union Jack, and we've got some shops here as well. I know this particular one is well famous for its chocolate drinks. You can see there, mornings never tasted so good. Yeah, I just love it. Look at all the lichen here on the directions. So we will certainly go to the Ypres Tower. We'll go to St Mary's Church. We just walked from a railway station. And part of the magic of Rye is just to walk around, and I was going to say get lost. You can't really get lost. The magic of Rye is actually in the small details and the things we observe as we walk. Timber framed houses and pubs, and beautiful lookout points as well. Yeah, let's check this one out. Here you can get an idea of a landscape around. This is Rye reminding us that it was once an island and it stood above marshland. Open fields, low horizon, sense of distance. Look at the cars driving over there. Look at the manicured grass here. I suppose this is a bowl centre, bowl club. And you can see beautiful houses here as well, which will absolutely keep us occupied because there's so much detail to observe. Look at the doors here, St Andrew's just a really lovely town to come and relax and experience something different, get some fresh air. We've got another lookout point here as well, and in fact here you can get a bit of a perspective of the height of a town. Look over here, the vertical story of Rye, I guess. You see the layered hillside. You've actually got three clear tiers here, don't you? You've got the foreground here, gardens, greenery and domestic calm, and you've got a tight cluster of houses here in the middle, and obviously on top there as well. Check this out. This lookout was given in 1935 by E.F. Benson when mayor of Rye. He immortalized this town as Tilling in his Map and Lucia novels. Well, there you go. Bit of history. And looks like the Rotary Club presented this Jubilee of Rotary 23 February 1955. Here's more directions for us as well. We came from the Landgate and we'll go to Ypres Castle, the Ypres Tower. Oh, you've got Dungeness as well over there. That's the nuclear facility, isn't it? We can go to other French places here, as you can see, Dunkirk. So yes, lots of history here, shared history between the English and the French, of course. But here we go. Now we are entering the High Street, one of the crown jewels of Rye for sure, certainly in terms of shopping, and loads of independent shops. In fact, I've not seen any high street names here whatsoever. You can see Rye chocolates, pocket full of Rye. How brilliant is that? Lots of art galleries, other crafts, obviously coffee shops. Here's the art gallery, some of the items on display. African elephant. There, makes me think I'm in Africa. RSA, it doesn't stand for the Republic of South Africa, it's Rye Society of Artists. That's the closest I'll get to home here in Rye. Friendly dog as well. And oh, we got your magical tea and matcha. Yeah, let's look at some of the things for sale here. The best loose leaf teapot you'll ever own. After a sugar kick, you can come here to the dentist here in Rye. Dental surgery, more arts and crafts. Have we got here some Rye houses on display, perhaps some beach huts. So Camber Sands, that's where the beach is nowadays. Don't think we'll have time for that, but certainly you can go there. It's only a short bus journey away. If we got down here, Conduit Hill, Ypres Tower Museum. Yeah, well, just orientating myself where I am. There are loads of little alleys, little twittons to get lost in as well. Here we go, Rye, East Sussex, that's where we are. And another depiction there. Let's say goodbye to the High Street for now. We'll come back here in a bit. I want to go up here. That is, if the traffic will allow me. The Union Rye. And beautiful architecture here as well. Nice columns there, checker. Over the years, many artists and writers have made Rye their home, including Paul Nash. Look there, too much. I disagree. You can never get too much of Rye. In fact, let's go back down to the High Street. We will loop back up to St Mary's. And just love these tiny shops at the bottom of these buildings. Effa loves me. And over here as well. Bit of neon here in Rye. Oh, there's Frida Kahlo, who I always spot on my travels. More evidence of a farming community here in Rye. Look there, Ram's Head. Adams Stationers and Printers. Love all these timber framed properties, buildings. They don't look very stable, but they've got a lot of character. They've lasted centuries, some of them. Hatter's House in Rye. Some interesting jewellery and fashion items. Sunglasses for Rye. Bags. Yeah, it's just, if you're into shopping, independent shops, I think you will love it here. Bit of colour there as well, flowers. Grammar school records, this could have been an old school. Yeah, let's loop up here. There's St Mary's, the spiritual centre of Rye. It is Sunday, so there might be a service, and I'm definitely keen to go inside and maybe climb up to the tower. Important to look back sometimes as well. You get another perspective. Great variety of architecture. Oh, hang on. Treasures of Rye. Over here. Bear and Me. More gift shops. Listen to the birds. Just a wonderful atmosphere, wonderful vibe. Ah, Kokomo. So if you've got a sweet tooth, or if you want to go for the healthy option, you've got the strawberries. Chocolate teddies of Rye. Here we go, St Mary's Centre and Parish Office. Got a community space here with a kino. So I presume a cinema. Yeah, looks like it. If you've been to the cinema in Rye, let me know in the comments. Rye has a famous smuggling history, and the notorious Hawkers gang, they were part of it. You can see their Smugglers Trail. I'll talk more about the smuggling history in a bit, but let's go to St Mary's. Yeah, you can see service in progress. Opens at 12. We'll come back here. Whilst the service is on, let's check out more of Rye here. You've got Fletcher's house, where John Fletcher was born. Collaborated with William Shakespeare, amongst others. Yeah, just beautiful buildings and shops here. I need to be quiet for the service, but check here in Church Square. Beautiful candles. Colourful candles, and I guess some Asian touches here as well. Right, let's walk over here so I can gradually talk a little bit louder. Now here's the graveyard. Lots of gravestones. Giving you some shots here of the church building. Absolutely magnificent. During their 1377 raid of Rye, the French, they took the bells of St Mary's Church, took them back to France, but the men of Rye and Winchelsea, they didn't take that lightly. They launched a counter-raid across the channel. They recovered the bells and brought back other goods that had been taken in earlier attacks. So good on the men of Rye and Winchelsea. And I actually don't know how much damage the church suffered during that attack, but it is absolutely magnificent. Sunlight giving a bit of gloss there to the stained glass, and beautiful trees, different coloured leaves, and look at the timber framed houses as well. We'll see more of them from the cobblestone streets. I wanted to show you this tree here. Absolutely brilliant. Ypres tree, symbolizing strength, just like Rye showed over all the years, especially with attacks from abroad, from the French. And I've noticed a war monument here. The Great War, but also more recent wars. You can see there Iraq and the Gulf War. Yes, there we go. Remembering those who fought for their country outside the church. One of my highlights in Rye is the cobblestone street here. It is maybe not everyone's favourite part of Rye, but what I really love about this is the juxtaposition here between the timber framed and stone houses and the graveyard, the church over there, and then this timber frame building, St Anthony as well. There are so much magic in this corner of Rye. And let's walk down here because we want to get to the Ypres Tower, or Ypres as some of the locals refer to it. They struggle with the pronunciation of the E, the Y, and I guess the silent S, so many just call it Ypres. Yeah, Church Square. Very historic buildings here, but they are still being used today. They are lived in. So essentially you've got Rye's two identities pressed together here. You've got the church with a graveyard and the living on this side. The living and the long memory. Rye's two identities pressed together. Yeah, some private passages here as well. Yeah, just look at the windows and the doors here. Might be a bit tricky living here, so I think you'll have to develop a certain technique going in. You might bump your head otherwise. But hey, when you live in a beautiful historic town like Rye, that is a small price to pay. Look at the blossoms here, giving you a shot of a church here through the trees. And I've spotted here an old police building, which is now a residence. You can see there's Sussex County Police. I guess after the smugglers all left, there wasn't much to do for the police. So the police station got converted into a home. Anyway, let me know what it's like to live here. If it's safe, I bet it is. I bet there's not a worry in the world here. And I guess in the past they would have had worries because they needed to defend themselves. And there is the famous Ypres Tower, also known as Rye Castle. Ypres or Ypres Tower, which is now a place you can come and visit for a small fee. And you can see a medieval castle built in the 13th century for Rye's defence. It was later a private house, the town court, and a prison, a gaol. It is now a museum. Yes, look at the small windows there. It was formerly known as Badding's Tower, and then in 1430 John de Ypres, he gained ownership of this structure, and hence the modern name of Ypres Tower. There are some free things for us to look at, including this ammunition box. Cast iron box below bears the shield of a board of ordnance, which was created in 1683. And today it serves a bit of a different function. Yeah, beautiful building this. Yeah, you don't want to be ending in one of these, that's for sure. Back in the day, that would not have been a nice experience. Garderobe. The medieval privy was a simple method of dealing with human waste. Okay, well, guess we've got modern luxuries they didn't have back then. That is what it looks like inside, and at the back you do have a useful timeline there. Ah, the church playing some beautiful music. We'll go in a bit later. In the meantime, I picked up a free map here of Rye. It's got more information for us here, places to go and see, but the guy inside said absolutely do come and check out the gun garden here. Oh, there's also a 17th century inn down there. Yeah, the gun garden of Rye on a sunny day. You can see many people are enjoying the views from here. You can see the cannons and cannonballs. That's the river Rother, you can see there. But the Tillingham and the Brede join the Rother somewhere here close to Rye. Lots of water in the area, wind energy. Yeah, lots of wind, of course, here on the English coast. You can see the industrial strip there. There's some yachts or boats. Let's move to this lookout point here, give you another perspective. Of course, Rye's relationship with the sea has changed dramatically over the centuries. In the Middle Ages, the town sat right on the shoreline with ships moored directly below the cliffs. You can still see lots of boats using the river, but I wonder what it would have looked like back in the Middle Ages. I guess over time a combination of storms, silting and longshore drift that would have gradually pushed the shoreline out, the coastline out. Yeah, let's go down here to the free house public area where you can come and have a drink. The beer garden, in fact, that's the proper term, isn't it? Free house Ypres Castle. Beautiful flowers as well. Rye, I've got a love relationship with nature, that is for sure. Yeah, someone hard at work. I guess in summer this will be a nice spot to come and hang out. Have a little bit of a view of Ypres Castle. I've read that by the 17th century the original port that Rye had became unusable, and engineers, they were forced to cut a new channel further south. That is why the working harbour, it sits at Rye Harbour Village, about 2 miles from the town itself. The sea has literally moved away. Yeah, some more features here in the gun garden. An old anchor, and I guess another spot you can walk up for another view, but I think I gave you a pretty good perspective of the marshes and river Rother, the surrounding nature. Let's go and explore more of the magic of this beautiful East Sussex town. Just love all the flowers. Somehow they soften the medieval stone. It's a gentle, almost poetic counterpoint to the weight of some of these buildings. Lots of blossoms. These two, they've had a bit of a fancy haircut, don't you think? Yeah, I can hear another piece of music. Won't be too long before we're able to go inside. I'm thinking, actually, I'm going to change my plan. I will walk down this side, come back a bit later. Yeah, I love this. Not heritage, not medieval drama, just people trying to make their streets look good. And yes, St. Anthony. I guess this is one of Rye's most photographed buildings. Yeah, I love this big beam here. Beautiful houses. These windows here, I guess they would have given it a bit of love and attention over the years. What a lot of character it has. Anyway, we are here in Watch Bell Street. More cottages either side of the street. And yeah, there are a few tourists about now. The sun's out, cameras are out. Oh wow, St. Anthony's. Another religious building here. Here's Rye's first Franciscan friary. Look here, this house has got a curfew, number 9, so I guess 9 o'clock is the curfew. Yeah, look at the beautiful nature around here. This is absolutely wonderful. I guess I picked the right day to come and explore. Look at the blue sky. And the sunshine, the sunlight just makes the buildings pop even more. Go down here. Yeah, Cobblestones, that's certainly where we are. Cobblestone Street. More timber framed houses. I love the mix of architecture. It makes these timber frame houses pop more. Yeah, wow. Oh wow. This is extraordinary. I don't think I've ever seen a license plate, a number plate that short. When I grew up in Lambert's Bay in South Africa, I had a little book where I wrote down all the number plates, all the registration plates of vehicles. And I almost feel like starting that again with this magnificent license plate there. Look at this as well. There's just magic around every corner, isn't there? Flowers, another magnificent view, and there's a ginormous bell here as well. Look at this. We got some information, I think so. Yeah, there we go. This bell was placed here by the Rotary Club of Rye and Chelsea to commemorate the 50th anniversary of their club. The bell once used in past centuries to warn the townspeople of impending raids from across the channel. Yes. Rye, of course, sitting on a vulnerable stretch of coast if you teleport yourself back to the Middle Ages. Right, let's walk down here towards Mermaid Street. That is undoubtedly the most photographed street in Rye. Just passing another sign here. A gay dolphin hotel made famous by Malcolm Saville in his Lone Pine series of children's adventure books written between 1943 and 1978. So Rye as a town popular with artists and writers and also with smugglers over the years. And as we walk down to Mermaid Street, I think it's fitting that I tell you more about smuggling. We saw the Hawkhurst gang referenced earlier. But as ships grew larger and deeper harbours elsewhere took over long distance trade, the fortunes of Rye began to fade. Of course, having access to water, that is good for smuggling as well. It was really by the 18th century that smuggling in Rye had grown from a sideline activity into a major part of local life. Because Rye's geography made it perfect for moving contraband. You have a maze of narrow lanes. You've got ancient inns with deep cellars. Not sure if the smugglers hung out here in the community peace garden. But yeah, what a wonderful spot to come and relax. Rye Baptist Church. Anyways, back to the smuggling history. According to a long-standing local tradition, there were a lot of hidden passages here in Rye that linked buildings such as the Mermaid Inn and the Old Bell. And that meant that tea, brandy and tobacco and other items could flow through the town in huge quantities. And I've read that for years the authorities, they struggled to keep control. Now, there's the ship in. Will Washington take America or smugglers England first? It's a bit of a weird sentence, some old English. I guess many of the pubs you can frequent today might have had a history of smuggling. And the most feared smuggling group was of course the Hawkhurst gang. They were active from about the mid 1730s to the late 1740s. The Hawkhurst gang, they took their name from a village just over the Kent border, but Rye was firmly in their territory, and they often drank here in the Mermaid Inn, which we'll see up there in Mermaid Street. Just to show you evidence that we are in fact in Rye's most famous street, Mermaid Street. You can get an ice cream here. There are lots of cafes and Restaurants around, people enjoying the sunshine. We are gonna enjoy Mermaid Street, and this is really a street that rewards slow exploration, and it is quite steep as well, so a bit of a challenge for a vlogger trying to keep his breath. Anyway, this is where we came from, Traders Passage, and we are now entering prime smuggling territory as well, going to the Mermaid Inn. Can you imagine back in the day trying to smuggle goods along these slopes? I guess that's where the hidden cellars and the hidden passages will come in handy. Yeah, it's quite steep, as you can see. Let's not forget to focus on the buildings and the flowers. Lots of people enjoying the town. Today Mermaid Street has a few hotels and other plush establishments, and of course some interesting houses with interesting names. Look here, 2 front doors. The house with 2 front doors. That is brilliant. Around 1520. I guess much of Mermaid Street would have been destroyed in that French raid of 1377, and they had to rebuild quite a bit of it, including the Mermaid Inn, which I think dates from the 12th century. I think the cellars may still be intact, but they certainly had to rebuild this. Yeah, this is it. Here we go. The famous Mermaid Inn. And there's a mermaid sign as well. Can you imagine the Walkhurst gang hanging out here, getting wasted, talking about their next smuggling adventures? Yeah, I was right. Mermaid Inn from the 12th century, 1156, rebuilt 1420. Yeah, some stained glass here with De Stijl as the pattern. And there's the mermaid as well, in stained glass form. Here's the menu, in case you wanted to come here for some lunch. Some Rye Bay fish in mermaid ale butter for just under £20. We're here on the other side of a building, and we've got a smuggler's song here. I'm not gonna read it out, never mind sing it, but it is actually written by Rudyard Kipling. Alright, I am inside and I've got some information here. A leaflet as well on the Mermaid Inn. Unquestionably the most beautiful of all smugglers' inns. Yeah, some areas are off limits for casual guests like myself. It's only if you're gonna sit down and dine, but I thought I'd just show you some of the rooms and corners here, and some interesting clientele, and some celebrities who frequented the Mermaid Inn over the years as well. Fantastic. There's a bar area, photos of Rye over the years, important historic figures. Yeah, the Mermaid Inn here in Rye, still kicking after all these years. Outside seating areas, parlour and fireplace bar. I guess in winter that would be a very nice place to come and hang out. Yeah, check here, the Mermaid's doors had been opened 150 years when Elizabeth I visited Rye in 1573. An establishment fitting for a royal person as well as a smuggler. I'll tell you about one well-known incident in this part of the world. There were about 20 gang members. They were having too much of Grandpa's old cough medicine, and they were in a very bad mood, or a very good mood depending on what they were drinking. A young man by the name of James Marshall, he was said to have watched them a bit too closely and was never seen again. These men were not to be messed with. They were no romantic smugglers. In 1744 I've read that they unloaded a vast cargo from 3 large ships at Pevensey, and they moved it inland using a convoy of around 500 horses, and they did so in broad daylight. But I guess like any great empire, they overstretched and in 1747 customs officers seized a shipment of tea and brandy from their vessel, the Three Brothers, and they locked it in Poole Customs House. So what did the gang do? Well, they decided to get it back, so they went to steal it. What followed was a chain of informants, trials, and 2 notorious murders, one of a customs officer and another of a shoemaker. That finally forced the government to act, and rewards were offered, pardons were promised, and by the end of the crackdown at least 75 gang members had been hanged or transported, with some even gibbeted as a warning. So there you go, just a little bit of history of smuggling of a Hawker's gang who also frequented these cobblestone streets, and of course the Mermaid pub back there. But let's explore more of this quaint little town. We're in West Street. The fun just never stops. It is definitely the season for flowers making a comeback. Thomas House, 14th century. So I guess it was either spared the French attacks in 1377 or it was rebuilt straight after. Now let's go up here because we've got Lamb House, another historic building. And we've got a sign here, the first house. The first house meaning presumably that this was the first house in Rye. Or it's just first as in official. So I think it might be part of Lamb House. Let's go up here. Yeah, Lamb House. This was built in 1722 for James Lamb, a prosperous wine merchant. And yes, it is now a museum with some prices there, just in case you're interested, if you're ever in the area. What is significant here is, again, some authors who lived either in the building or close by. You've got Henry James, who lived here 1898 to 1916, and listed here as well. In a garden house on this site, destroyed in an air raid on the 18th of August 1940, Henry James wrote many of his novels. I've also read that Lamb House inspired Joan Aiken's supernatural novel The Haunting of Lamb House, and also E.F. Benson. Yeah, we saw a reference to him earlier. He lived here, and so did his brother A.C. Benson. Brothers and writers. A lot of literary giants who made Rye their home. Yeah, a little Lamb cottage next to Lamb House, and Galleon cottage. All these cottages have different names. Michaelmas cottage. Anyways, back here at St Mary's, one of the most iconic buildings in all of Rye, and we got Cocktail Corner with some beautiful flowers. Well, I'm not sure how the church feels about Cocktail Corner opposite it. Here you have the old vicarage. Nice pastel pink. Yeah, just look at all the patterns on the building. Yeah, this is very special. The parish church of St Mary the Virgin here in Rye. Let's go in. Entrance. Unbelievable, isn't it? Yeah, unbelievable. Look here, stained glass. There's the organ. Lots of interesting features of the town depicted here. Maybe some individuals. There's a proud community here in Rye. Look, they even have a knitting group. You can come and sit here and knit. And I just love these stained glass windows in the churches in England. They even have a seating area for kids there. There's the hymns. Yo, Extraordinary. Look at the information there. Charities, mosaic here. St. Veronica's handkerchief. According to legend, Veronica was a woman in Jerusalem who, filled with compassion at the sight of Jesus carrying his cross on the way to the crucifixion, stepped forward and wiped his face with a cloth, often described as a handkerchief. And there is Jesus on the cross. This is their Book of Common Worship. We are part of the Diocese of Chichester, and I love this roll of a baptized, still used in the 21st century. There's St. Mary's fishnet. Fort Tony, you are in my thoughts, be at peace, Kate. What do you think of St. Mary's here in Rye? Do let me know in the comments. I am just always astonished going into these medieval buildings and in particular churches. And yes, I just had confirmation that the French, they did burn down this church. So can you imagine when they rebuilt it, I believe in the 15th century, all the blood, sweat and tears that have gone into this. The finest views of Rye and the oldest turret clock in the country, around 1560. That's what I'm here to see. All right, there's my ticket. Let's go up here. It's a little bit narrow, they said, so I should be careful, but so far not too bad. Oh, I guess there's a bit of a roadblock, sorry. Is it worth it?
Yeah, it's very nice.
Nice, cheers. There we go. Let's continue our journey. Yeah, definitely not wide enough for two people. Oh gosh, yeah. Oh, now I can see what they meant when they said it was narrow. Look at this. Oh gosh. Yeah, if you're a person of a certain size, you might struggle. Yeah, it's not too bad. It can be a little bit tricky. For certain people, definitely. Right, what have we got here? Some people hard at work making bells, repairing bells. Look there, Queen Camilla's visit to Rye in 2024. Yeah, more names associated with St. Mary's over the years. Yeah, a letter from Buckingham Palace. Yeah, bell ringing information for King Charles III's coronation. And various other pieces of information. And here it is. I am not a techie person, but even I can appreciate the history here. It's fantastic that I still got this. I'll give you a view from the other side. A very calming, soothing sound. Not referring to the seagulls, I'm actually referring to the ticking there. The old bell ringer commemorated here as well. Right, let's go up. I've been told by everyone that this is excellent. So obviously we are in a medieval building, so we need to take care and we visit this premise entirely at our own risk. But hey, some things in life are worth a risk, isn't it? Prime engineering back in the day, and still is today. Well, anyway, let's go up. Oh, here's an owl. Hello sir, how are you?
Whoa.
I think they're just keeping an eye on everyone. And there's the door, the screen door. So I say I should pull it. Oh, there we go. Oh wow. How special is this? The best views in Rye for sure. And we heard the bell as a bonus, or someone must have rang it. Oh wow. There's the Ypres Tower, the River Rother, You can see the English Channel now, so you can see how far Rye is actually from the sea. 2 miles. There's Dungeness. Got all the wind farms. Yo, you've got an absolutely magnificent 360-degree view here. The English countryside at its absolute best on a beautiful day. Let's not forget the weather vane up there. 1703 listed. Bit of copper that I guess got oxidized over the years. So many beautiful rooftops, and I genuinely do like the lichen, which you can also see over here. Yeah, this is definitely now my favorite thing to do in Rye. Come up here and get a view of the entire town. This is very, very special and well worth the £5 entry. There's the train station. I can even give you a little peek there at some of the ornaments of the church and some of the residents. Is that what we call you? Are you going to destroy this church like you did the Landgate? Are we going to have to remove a lot of your waste? I hope not. Oh, you just did it. They just dropped something. This is how you, yeah. It's interesting entrance here. This was definitely one of the best things I've done. Yes, thank you very much, St. Mary's. This was an absolute highlight. Alright, let's explore more of beautiful Rye. Let's head down to the High Street, which is over there. Oh, I might be tempted to just make a chess move. Oh, it's not packed correctly, but yeah, let's go with that and see if someone responded. I don't know if they know how to play chess in Rye, because the board wasn't packed right. But Rye, I think you're winning at the chess match of life. You've done it the hard way, but look at what you look like in 2026. I'm sure the 1400s or the 1500s version of Rye would be immensely proud of what you've done to preserve the history. Yeah, we are back here on the High Street, and this is the school we saw earlier, but yeah, just to confirm, this was an old grammar school. See, they erected in 1636, and it was a school until 1908 when a new one was built, and it's now a record shop by the looks of it. Yeah, grammar school records. So the old giving birth to something new. Alright, there's the first high street shop I've seen in Rye so far. Lots of independent shops, paws and claws, magnificent. So I guess for our dog lovers amongst us, they will love it here. Look at all the big tennis balls they can play with. They even offer some teeth cleaning for the dogs and something to drink. Some people going for a Sunday drive here in Rye, and Rye candy shop. Look here, you can buy some seagull poo and some absolutely massive candy, massive sweets here. Family fun for all. Rye candy, fish and chips bars, Curious and Curious Sir. Yeah, obviously the sea's not too far from here. You can protect yourself from the sun and the rain. Of course, this is England. It does rain per occasion, but I am exceptionally grateful for a marvelous sunny day. Here's the old bell. Cobble's tea room. Beautiful establishments here. Coffee, Ray homeware. Just a plethora of establishments selling everything from coffee to fish and chips, burgers and steaks. Yeah, I love this. Dogs welcome, humans tolerated. I didn't realize it, but we are now in Mint Street by the looks of it. I believe Rye minted their own coins back in the day. Here's another thing I love about the town. You don't always have to take the main roads. You can take the little passages, the twittons, and you might be entering a whole new world of magic. And ultimately get back on the beaten track. What have we got here? The greenhouse. Yeah, you can see a secret passage back to a more conventional street for residents and tourists alike. We are back here on Mint Street. Thank you, Needles Passage, for an unforgettable adventure and something different here in Rye. Tudor style building here, as the name suggests there. So I guess the one challenge you'll have when visiting Rye is you're just overwhelmed with beauty and with magic. It's hard to know where to look sometimes, but undoubtedly one of my favorite towns in England. I think many people will compare it to Lewis. It's always hard to rank these towns in terms of beauty and having, say, a top 10 favorite towns. I guess Rye, they would be a good candidate for a top 10 town, certainly in England. But hey, that might be controversial. Do let me know in the comments. Do you have a favorite town in England? As a South African, I found this particularly interesting about Rye. There were a lot of Huguenots who arrived here around the 16th century. They settled here in Rye and in Winchelsea, and they would have added another layer to Rye's magnificent history. Many of the Huguenots, of course, were skilled craftspeople, and it does make sense that Rye has so many independent craft shops and establishments if you just take the Huguenot history. Yeah, some of our friends in nature, they've got a home here. Oh, look at that interesting bag. It's got a bit of a Japanese touch. Look at that, ramen and sushi. I walked past this earlier, but I didn't notice this sign there. The House of Gill Clockmakers from 1680 to 1791. So what do you think of Rye? Let me know in the comments, and if you haven't done it yet, please hit the like and subscribe buttons. Has this building taken some inspiration from a net stores we saw in Hastings? I don't know, but it certainly has an industrial feel. But then you do see a beautiful little property like this. Pink doors there. Anyways, we are here at the bottom of Mermaid Street, so we've done a bit of a loop, and back here where many people are sitting outside, here at the Old Borough Arms, and yeah, there we go, that's the Strand. Old grain store, so maybe not old net stores as in Hastings or net warehouses. Long ago, before the sea retreated, this was the center of a thriving medieval port holding up to 200 ships. Ah, there we go, the tall wooden buildings alongside our old warehouses. So I was right, reminders of the trade that used to go on. These might have been used for grain. Today you can come and get some milkshakes, ice creams. What makes Rye extraordinary isn't a single building or a single story, but it's the accumulation of them all. This is a town that has been shaped by forces mostly beyond its control. The sea, the weather, the French, the shifting currents of trade, and yet it endured. Here in Mermaid Street, for example, you've got an inn whose cellars survived when everything above them was destroyed. In the Ypres Tower you had a fortress, a prison, a morgue, and now a museum. Every layer of this town is in a way a response to something that tried to finish it off. And yet it still stands and breathes healthily. It has overcome challenge after challenge after challenge, and that's why I say that it has won the chess match of life, because in 2026 I can't think of many better places to visit than this beautiful town in East Sussex. If you haven't done it yet, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment for me in the comment section. I would love to hear from you. For now, I just want to say again, thanks for watching my videos, and I will see you in the next one. Cheers, take it easy.